communication. In this step, we're going to determine the mode of communication. Resources for determining the mode of communication would be your IEP profile sheets from the prep week, the beginning of year parent survey, the communication basics checklist, communication ideas list for this step as well. Optional resources include the positive reinforcement survey, and that was in the prep week, or choice boards, which was in step 3. Outside resources that I'll be referencing include the YACK, Y-A-A-C-K. It's a huge document, great information. AAC prompting hierarchy. And 2 of my favorite communication boards that I use in my classroom. One is from Little Miss Kim. The other one is from the Language Ladies. Both of those you can find links down below on my blog or on TPT. The purpose of step 4 is to establish communication and establish a system for each child in your class so they can communicate effectively and functionally. We're also going to brainstorm when staff can model communication, different opportunities throughout the day, and when can your students have the chance to talk at school. In this step, I have a lot to say. So be ready. Did you know that everyone communicates? Yeah, even your pets can communicate with you. They communicate with everybody, non-verbally, or if you're human, hopefully verbally. Everyone finds ways to express their wants and their needs, and you may know what your students are feeling and thinking without them saying a single thing, and that's awesome. But to somebody else, that's not helpful to them. This is their nonverbal communication, and our job is to transition their nonverbal communication to expressive, functional communication for others to understand in different locations, in different settings. Step 4, there's 4 steps. We're going to go over a hierarchy of communication and understanding them, the components of language in a self-contained classroom, such as choice board, PECs, labeling, everything around you, a core vocabulary board, assistive technology, high and low, such as switches and devices, an individual communication system that houses all of those, and self-contained resources for enhancing your communication. The hierarchy is important to understand for comprehension because everyone communicates at different levels. Just like our individual schedules in step 3, some students will be able to communicate without any prompting and can be independent and use their words, but others need heavy prompting. They may need photos or objects or technology to help them. So it's the same for our communication system. It's going to be an array of support. Our hierarchy of communication goes from objects, mini objects, actual photos, picture symbols, line drawings, and text. Components of language. Students need symbolic understanding. They need to learn that pictures or words represent an object or a concept. The pictures or words have communicative meaning. The student learns the structure of communication. Communication occurs between 2 people or more, but essentially you need another person to communicate. And the pictures or communication controls the behavior of the other person initiating the request. So in order to do that, we're going to start with the basic checklist resource. This will help us determine each student's communication level and their system that they should be using. So let's find out, how do your students communicate? Some of your students may already show up with different types of devices, and others will be at different skill levels with communication, as we've already gone over. We're going to meet them where they're at, and we're going to expand on their vocabulary. We're going to take them to new levels so they'll be more expressive, more communicative by the end of the school year. So some things you need to know are, do they have a core vocabulary board? Do they have AAC, low tech, high tech? Do they use sign? Can they produce any verbal approximations or vocalizations? Do they need a word wall or a dictionary? You probably have students that won't have a communication system in place, and so you're going to have to kind of start from scratch. And you may also know little to no information when they walk into the door, into your loving classroom on the first day of school, but that's life. And you just love them on that first week. If you aren't sure what communication needs are for your students, then just observe them. Talk with them, play with them, find out what they like, what they're drawn to. They're going to show you. All you have to do is watch. The goal is to establish a system for them this year, and it will take time. Starting with a labeled classroom and a core board and a choice board. Those 3 things will get you started. Label everything, give them the option to talk, and model it. Building the individual communication system. Next, use the communication basic checklist to see how the students communicate with basic words. We're going to start with low-tech communication, which includes objects, pictures, clip art. And if students don't have a system or have very limited skills, start by adding and labeling everything throughout the room and the campus. This is a great way to get them kind of hooked on the communication for things that they like. Teach the students to request the items while you model and reinforce them. In conjunction, use the choice board that we discussed in step 3. The communication basic checklist will help you determine what level of support you as the teacher need as well. This is where you can rely or lean on or call up your assistive technology person and your speech language team and get them to help you in supporting your students and their language needs. Once you've completed the checklist and you've determined your students' communication levels, we're going to talk about ways to enhance that communication on campus. We're going to analyze the environment. Like I said, have you labeled everything using pictures and words in your classroom with your materials around campus? What about the areas that they go to frequently, like the cafeteria, the library, the music room, PE, or gym? When you label things, it encourages the student to request and comment on the activity that they're playing in or participating in. It helps them want to use that icon, and it helps them solidify that image in their mind. Identifying opportunities to emphasize communication throughout the school day are important. Use any opportunity you can to encourage them to communicate, and be patient. Wait it out. Even a simple please or thank you builds that expressive communication. Sabotage the environment. Move the reinforcers around to new areas. Even though I know in step 1 or 2 I told you to have things in areas, but things like this you can hide in containers or put them up higher where students can't reach them. Have them request for things, ask for things, comment on things, and then when it's something that they want, they'll learn to ask because it's motivating to them. In the last step, we talked about implementing the choice board. It increases the active participation of individuals with disabilities, and the choice board is a great way to encourage students to communicate. It gives them a choice between 2 or more items or reinforcers or things that they like and they're going to want to talk to you about. Learn more about the importance of choice and how it builds into communication with the link. Also, use the choice-making strategies while conducting a positive reinforcement survey. I mentioned that a little bit in the previous steps as well. This can help you determine the students' favorite things other than our go-to of technology and food. As students' vocabulary increases, you can begin creating a picture exchange book for them, and you're going to use the most requested items or icons or pictures to be housed in their book. So from the class choice board, you can put them in their book so they no longer have to go to that choice board or that location in class for that icon. It's there in their book. Use a binder with Velcro to store all the images or text, and it's suggested that students are able to discriminate or identify about 50 items before you start making them a book. Our next resource is AAC, Augmentative and Alternative Communication. Too much, so we just call it AAC. It is any item or service that helps compensate for a student's severe expressive communication disorder. AAC is any device or any system or method that improves the ability of a child with a communication impairment. The purpose of AAC is to increase a child's ability to achieve various demands from their environment. Next up is PECS, Picture Exchange Communication System. The formal system is actually a whole system, and you should ask your district to train or get a copy of the book because it is kind of intensive. But you can have real images, clip art, words, and depending on the skill level, it can be an array of items. The beginning steps need to be 2 people prompting, but that does not mean that you can't put in an effective communication system without it. As you can see, there are plenty of other strategies and resources to promote communication throughout the school day. Assistive technology. We've talked about it a little bit here and there, but how can you use it and what is it? What if my students can't manipulate all these visuals you're talking about? What if they need something more concrete? Well, we use objects and we use assistive technology such as switches and devices. This is a great way to teach students to communicate their basic wants and needs through preferred objects using assistive technology. The students who need an auditory input from a switch or a vocal cue are very beneficial to this. They can press the device and it gives them that feedback. The other end of the spectrum is the high-tech communication. And this can be an iPad, tablet, computer, PRODCUTS, the LAMP program. Different technologies for special needs can provide voice output as well. Also, if you aren't familiar with a device, let the parents and let your staff know. You can get training from your local region, or the parents could be more than happy to show you how they and their child or the services and therapies that they have utilize that device so it's the same and consistent between home and school. You want to keep that consistent to further the child's communication progress. And depending on the complexity of the device, you may need training from related services. And I've had some really cool devices, eye gazers or nerve sensor devices. And I wasn't sure, but I grabbed a manual and I sat with people and I figured it out. I trialed and errored with the child and we got it. So technology opens up a world of opportunities. Core vocabulary board. Did you know that 78% of the words we use daily are drawn from a fewer than 400 words? The majority of words that we use in sentences are not picture producers. Therefore, core words are not easy for our students to produce images in their mind. They can't hear or see the word and find an item that matches it. For example, only one word in this sentence is a picture producer. I went on a trip and I saw a mountain. What was the picture producer? Mountain, right? Core vocabulary boards need to be consistent across places, topics, and activities. Like with our work system and our schedules and our core boards, we're all set up from left to right and they can have color coding. You can promote the core vocabulary board by using motivating items and objects just like all of our other resources. When students make requests, they are expanding their communication. Ask open-ended questions to get them to engage in the core vocabulary board. Use it throughout the day in any situation, at any opportunity. Model what you want them to do and what you want to see. Slow down your rate of speech, which I have a problem with sometimes, and that encourages them to be able to comprehend it more. Don't feel that the student needs to identify the symbol before they can use it. Teach it in a functional environment. You can see the resource list, ideas to promote communication, and the downloads for how to utilize throughout the school day. Be at eye level with the student. Wait for them to respond. When you think you've waited long enough, count 5 more seconds, 5 more Mississippis, because silence is golden. And before you do that, use open-ended questions to get them to think and use the words that are in front of them on that board. Also, make sure you include visuals and photos that the child cares about. Our system sometimes fails because the child doesn't care about anything on that choice board. So create them for different situations. You can have them for art, for PE, for computer, for all things during the school day. Music is a great one because they all like to dance and sing. So your action. Make a list of the various communication needs of your students using the checklist. And do you have all the necessary images and devices and skills to make the communication with them successful? If not, reach out to me, to a speech therapist, to your assistive technology, to a mentor, to somebody, and get support to help your students build the communication that they need to succeed in your class. Also, don't forget to join the Facebook group, the email list, and check out my blog for any other resources, tips, and tricks that you may need to make this successful. Oh, I do want to mention, I wasn't going to talk about this, but it just popped in my head. I started a podcast. So if you are in this special ed world, jump on over to any of the major podcasting, except I don't have Apple. I got to figure out Apple. I think you have to pay, but any other one. And you can listen to me read blogs from other professionals in the special education industry. I promise I read a lot slower than I do now, and it's probably not as fun to listen to me as it is to watch me, but hopefully you guys can enjoy it. So until next time, I will see you guys in step 5. We're going to be talking about behavior, which is so much fun. And there's so much in every step. I have to cut stuff out. Get talking with your kids, and I'll see you guys in step 5 to talk about behavior. Hold on. Oh, that's it. Hopefully Cordy stays asleep, dog stays calm. I'm going to kick him out. Step 4, communication. Captain. He's playing with his ball. He's either going to unplug the light or make a bunch of noise. Hold on. You want a raise? Hopefully you can ask for a raise. I mean, not as a teacher. I guess it's a pointless analogy. Dude, are you really doing that right now? Blech.